On August 1st, 2022, Scott Cawthon announced on Reddit that he would be funding the creation of multiple games from many popular fan game creators, most of those being sequels. The announcement came out of nowhere, but with many dormant fan game developers coming back to their properties or work on their games starting up again, in hindsight, it was being spelled out for us. These creators are ONaF, developing a sequel to a series which originally popularized fan games, ultimately inspiring many other in this very fanverse. Five Nights at Candy's, the fourth one to be specific, as well as a spin-off platformer titled FNaC Fur, and lending his talents to the Popgoes series. Nixon working on a remastered collection of his Joy of Creation series. King Carter developing Popgoes Evergreen, a remake/retelling for Popgoes, his fan game from 2016. And an in-universe RPG, Popgoes Arcade, which is a prequel to the still in development Evergreen. And the third Popgoes Arcade game. But currently this is the only one in the fanverse. This is also the second game released since the fanverse had started, launching on Steam with a free expansion titled Popgoes and the Machinist on July 1st, 2022. And most recently, My Popgoes, a very tiny spin-off based on the Pixel Chick LCD games. Okay, that was the longest one. Next is Jonachrome developing the long-awaited threequel to One Night at Flumpty's, after canceling a potential entry years ago, which was the first game to release in the fanverse on Halloween of 2021 on GameJolt and the App Stores, although this game was completed before the fanverse was even announced. And finally, FNaC creating a reimagining of the original Five Nights at Freddy's game called FNaF Plus. But he left the fanverse after his fans sent gore videos to a minor and then he made fun of them for it, so let's just ignore him. Just forever. As part of the fanverse, Scott wanted these devs to be able to make money off of their games, something he forbid before, so he was going to allow them to produce mobile and console ports with the help of ClickTeam. And finally, the only part that matters for this video, the ability to produce and sell officially licensed FNaF merchandise. Not too much came out of this. Funko made a line of plushies, which we'll get to eventually, alongside Hex, but the real star of the show was Youtooz, who made a set of 4 vinyl figures as their third FNaF wave on September 16th, 2022. Hello and welcome to Prize Corner, the merch review show that usually has more than a base understanding of its source material. Today we are venturing outside of FNaF into 4 of its most popular fan multiverses, but technically only 3 as Popgoes and Candies canonically share a universe. Before we do, I want to discuss something. With this series, I am all about the details. Inaccuracies, references, bias, all that fun stuff. And while I have been trying to stay more partial and not letting the little things like that affect my whole review, I can't exactly fully avoid it. But with the fanverse figures, I can't really do that as well. I have very little experiences with these franchises, so I'm trying to challenge myself and just judging the figure based on what I'm seeing, and not some meta-contextual reason. But of course, I'm not completely blind here, so let me briefly discuss my experiences with the fanverse before and after it was announced. Minus FNaF Plus, because it was cancelled. Thank God, I did not want FNaF Sans sending me gore today. Let's start as far back as possible, before any of them even existed. If you know the story of Five Nights at Candy's, you know that ONaF made the first game as a response to another FNaF game, straight up stealing Candy the Cat, renaming him Sugar. And here is my first experience with the fanverse. I played this game before it was taken down. You see, it didn't only steal Candy, but assets ripped straight from FNaF 1 and 2, pretty much just combining them into one game. This rehash of ideas and stolen characters was put out on GameJolt as FNaF 3. Yup! Which is exactly why Scott himself shut it down. I remember being blown away by this release, as it was one of the only fan games that existed at the time. I couldn't believe that other people could just make their own FNaF games. But obviously, as an adult, I can now see how shitty this was. But that didn't take away from how impressed I also was by the first Candies game. I can't remember ever beating this one, but I do have a faint memory of recording the first 2 nights as a Let's Play that I never uploaded. Thank God. Since then, I've played the remaster of Candies 1 to 100%. Twice! I'm not sure why, as I really don't like the gameplay of this one, just being FNaF 1 but slightly more complicated. I guess the added Shadow Candies fight was enough for me to kind of fall in love with this one. It really is amazing. But outside of that, I've never played more than the first night of the 2 sequels. I really tried to get into them, but they just bored me to tears, man. Maybe one day I'll give them a real shot, but for now, that's where I lay with Candies. Popgoes 2016 isn't very good. I mean, visually it is impressive and I enjoy the characters, but the gameplay is so boring and slow and generic, and I just really don't like it. I've never beaten this one, but I really tried, as I think Popgoes is cool, but not enough to get further than Night 3, sorry. That being said, a full remake with modern dev tactics and a completely different night section featuring these crazy cool messed up toy designs has definitely piqued my interest. I guess we'll see when it actually releases. Other than that, I've played my Popgoes, and as someone who actually owned a Pixel Chicks back in the day when I was a kid, this was definitely a really cute and nostalgic experience. And I'll definitely be picking up the deluxe version when it releases on Steam. Okay, now for a game I actually care about. Popgoes Arcade. Now, I never played the other arcade titles, but let me tell you, this game is really good. The fighting isn't like amazing, but the world is large and fun to explore with tons of things to collect and a bestiary to fill out. There is so much for you to do, and that's not even mentioning that there are 2 separate stories all for $5. Bosses are cool and deep cut references to not only Popgoes, but FNaF as well. And while this isn't the hardest game in the world, you will feel really good when you finally destroy one of those bosses. Tons of secrets, achievements that require multiple playthroughs to collect. This game is so cheap, it's definitely worth it for you to pick up, even if you're only slightly interested. I'm being serious when I say it has one of the best ending sequences to any FNaF fan game I've ever played. But then, One Night at Flumpty's 3 came out, and I was blown away. To this day, this is my favorite FNaF fan game of all time, but I actually won't say much more. I love Flumpty so much, and I'm actually planning a whole video discussing the series, so I'll hold off on the details. Just know that I don't just have the experience with all the games, I have experience with all of it. The canon April Fool's Day cartoons, the dev commentaries, the canceled 1 week at Flumpty's game, even update videos from the creator. I have consumed all possible Flumpty's media, and I am so excited for this Youtooz. Okay, so that doesn't really fit the theme of this video. In fact, I know a lot more about these games than I remembered. You know what? Alongside my reviews for each figure, I'm also going to have my husband, Artlad, talk about them as well. He has not played a single one of these games. He has watched me play Arcade and Candies, but that's okay because, hey Artlad, what do you remember about these games?
Nothing at all.
See? Now, this has been the longest possible intro ever, so let's just jump right into the first figure of the wave. Ignited Freddy. Oh good, we're starting with the one I know the least about. So I'm sure you noticed that while I was talking about my experiences, I didn't mention the joy of creation at all. Well, that's because I haven't played it. Sort of. I technically beat the first night of story mode, but it was too hard for me and I never picked the game back up after that. To be fair, that was years ago on a live stream, so I'm sure I could beat it now and maybe I'd love it just as much as everyone else. But I don't really want to play it now, since the remaster is on the way. Anyway, the back of the box, and on all of them, feature this kind of shitty Fanverse logo, and this shot of the included character's shadow through 2 open doors, which I love that they adapted for the specific games and didn't just use the FNaF one again. Here we see some kind of home office with a clock and a fan, which looks really cool against the other 2 more generic boxes. The sides show a poster of withered Chica and 3 disturbing cartoon cupcakes that look straight out of Astiff movie, and a bookshelf with a little shadow grabby hand. This is designed really nice, and I love that they tried to copy the normal FNaF boxes. Really great stuff. On the inside is the baby's bedroom from the only level I played. My ass opened this one and said, "Oh, I know this one!" The side profile shot has a baby monitor on a dresser with the Celebrate poster on the wall with a very smug looking Chica. The back looks amazing with the viewer in the baby's crib looking out the window to see a lightning strike revealing Ignited Freddy himself. Ooh. Wow, that is really inventive. Okay, so all of his quotes are taken directly from Nightmare Freddy in Ultimate Custom Night.
I am remade. No light can save you now.
And
I have always been hiding in your shadow.
Now I promised myself for this video I wouldn't do any research into these games, but I was 100% sure that Ignited Freddy has nothing to do with these lines. I mean, he's based on Withered Freddy, not Nightmare Freddy. Either way, I found nothing that linked these voice clips to Marvin here, so I have to assume this was just a random choice because I don't know, it takes place in a bedroom? Like, I know that this game had dialogue and the other 2 referenced their games directly. Did Nixon just not care to give them quotes and Youtooz was like, you know who this guy kinda looks like? Either way, the art is wonderful and I assume is a great representation of story mode. And the quotes, well, not having anything to do with the joy of creation, I mean, are good quotes that feel fitting to me, but also a little weird as it seems like he's saying this to Scott's kid. The hell, Ignited Freddy, what did Scott's kid do to you? I guess he didn't like sirens. Ignited Freddy's box will be getting a 7 out of 10. Not bad at all, but with how much I had to say about them, the quotes clearly could use some work. The figure itself is definitely interesting. If you don't remember, when reviewing Glamrock Freddy, I complained about him reusing classic Freddy's head when it really didn't fit. And while this definitely works a lot better than that, I am still very upset that they just recolored Freddy instead of making a withered Freddy model. That's the kind of thing Funko does, Youtooz. It's even more distracting now that Withered Freddy has a Youtooz and a unique head shape that just blows this out of the water. This is just embarrassing now. And because of that, he just hasn't aged very well. Oh, and because of this, we get to see Youtooz classic Freddy with top teeth. That is so cursed. But at least these additions were made and not just ignored. Like his buttons and, well, okay, I guess that's kind of all that Withered Freddy has unique to him. Unfortunately, that isn't the only problem I had with his head. In fact, my main issue with this figure, and Ignited Freddy as a whole, I guess, is his withering. It looks so gross. Instead of black pits where the damage is to show that they have depth inside, he just has, like, peeled off paint. Ignited implies that he was burned, so is this supposed to be fire damage? And why do the withered animatronics have like hard metal shells under the fur? That just seems like a weird addition to their designs. Like, wouldn't it be plastic or something soft and light to keep their shape? On the head, it doesn't look too bad. The jaw dirt in gray is actually kind of cool, but on the back of his head and mainly his chest, it just looks really awful, like bugs ate through him. This is really triggering my tryptophobia. Truth be told, I've gotten used to it more recently, but I'm still not really a fan of this. Although, I will say, dark gray for the endo, thank God. I've said this before, this is the way to go if you aren't going to go the extra mile and just make it silver. It isn't perfect or anything, but it looks so much better than the ugly, distracting light gray they usually do. Speaking of which, the endo is really well done. I love this simplistic take on the Endo 02 design. His spoon hands are a little goofy, like how exactly is this supposed to be scary? But I kinda like them. And the exposed lower jaw genuinely looks sick. I am a huge fan. As for pose, well, remain standing, but the eyes being all shifty helps a little bit. He looks like a dog being filmed. And I know I said no research, but doesn't he have silver eyes? Like the Phantoms. Why are they yellow? And why do merch companies always make silver eyes yellow? Good thing they fixed that for Springtrap. One thing I really appreciate about his design is that it isn't symmetrical. One arm is more exposed than the other. One of his legs have wires hanging down them. By the way, he looks like he's wearing shorts. All of the gross bad withering is basically random. He's missing his left ear, only leaving a nub, which just looks really funny to me. I kind of love it. And also, I'm just noticing this right now. He's also missing his left eyebrow as well. How did that take me so long to see? Bro has resting face. It's details like this that make Ignited Freddy really special. Sure, when it comes to making him look like the character he's actually based on, nuh-uh, no way, but giving him little dangly wires, sure, we can do that. I'm sorry, just the head makes me really annoyed, okay? Clearly my opinions have been very mixed up here. So what do I actually think about Ignited Freddy? Withered Freddy is a little messed up in the two parts that actually matter, but the amount of detail they crammed into this figure is impressive and almost makes up for the rash he has all over him. I believe a 7 out of 10 sums him up quite well. When I first got him, it was no question that he was the worst one. But now, after I've grown quite the attachment to him, I guess we'll have to wait and see if that's still the case. And now, for the first of many identical questions, but what does Art Lad think? Take it away, Rabbit Man.
The most I remember about these games is Flumpties, and even then I only remember stuff from the third game. Oh, and from Candies, I remember the rat. So yeah, that's basically the depths of my knowledge with these games. Now that you see how well I truly know these characters, let's talk about Ignited Freddy. Ignited Freddy is missing his arms. It makes him unique compared to the others in this wave. Another thing I love about this figure is his withering, like his pure black lower face, his hat withering, and even the wires on the side of his leg. It brings this figure together so well and it makes him feel like he was really burnt. I also like Marvin's big, chunky metal jaw. I do hate that it's matte gray, though. It makes it look flat and kind of dull, in my opinion. I also don't like his top teeth. I know that it's probably accurate, but it just makes him look goofy, and they're really big, so it's pretty distracting. All in all, I don't have too many negative things to say about Ignited Freddy. He just has a few details that hold him back, so he'll be getting a 7 out of 10 from me.
Next up is the daddy of all Fanverse games, and the one that likely inspired most of your favorites in one way or another, Candy the Cat. As one of the games I have the most experience with, I recognize almost everything that this box throws at me. Like, I recognize that door button, and on the sides a conspiracy billboard thing, and some of those fake trees. I think this is supposed to be Cam 4, as a bulletin board is featured. On the inside, the profile shot puts Candy on the show stage just like the FNaF figures do. And the very inside is a recreation of The Office. Wow, that looks great. This whole box is so vibrant. Oh look, the Candy sitting plushie with the more accurate eyes. Weird. We even get to see another Candy's character as a Youtooz through the poster that features Candy and oh, sorry, my bad, that's not Cindy, that's Pink Candy, I guess. Genuinely, what was the idea here? Laziness? The back is from Blank's room, I believe, and on the conspiracy billboard thing is a quote from one of the phone calls. Yeah, not the most interesting quote, but I guess they couldn't come up with anything better? Unfortunately, the other quotes are even worse, with the side one just being the word soon. For the life of me, I could not find an origin for this. And it gets even worse with the top flap spelling out the letter F in binary. What is this a reference to? Maybe this makes more sense to Candy's fans, but this is just nonsense to me. Is it supposed to be a funny F meme? Is it an epic F to pay respects meme? If so, what does that have to do with Candy's? And while I'm on it, what the hell does all is evil mean? Like, I looked them all up and I got nothing. Is it just nonsense? Did Il Mako not care to fill this out so YouTube just made some shit up? Please, if you know, tell me in the comments. It's really sad. This box is genuinely amazing. One of my all-time favorites. The colors are great and the design is simple and fits the game and figure perfectly. But those quotes are so bad, I can't help but feel like a 10 out of 10 was just ripped away from me. Whatever, here's to another 7 out of 10 for the Fanverse. I really like how his segmented limbs look here. They're like the toys, but more subdued. With them, the ball joints poke out and it's kinda distracting, but here it just gives the whole figure a sleek and consistent look. And look at those toy-style blocky toes. Ooh. Speaking of segmented segments, his segmented tie is captured well here. I always enjoyed how obvious the tie's articulation was. It makes me laugh. And it is a very iconic piece of his design, which I can't say for his tail. Of course, it looks cute, but with his tie being segmented, it's really weird that the tail isn't. Does it move as all one stiff piece, or does it move more fluidly? And if so, why not use that technology on the rest of the character? And also, why make the tie like this? This one really bugged me, so I went to see how it works in game. And what I found broke me. He doesn't have one. Candy the Cat doesn't have a tail, and this was just a mistake. The only official times I can find when he does have a tail is in the plush in The Office. I mean, I don't really care as it looks so natural on him, but still, this is a really weird thing I just uncovered. Moving on to a broader topic, this figure's colors are amazing! It makes me want the toy animatronics even more, as all of our current figures are just so dark and gloomy and mostly brown. But Candy is this really pretty shade of blue, and with all the white on his face, it works so well with it, all being tied together by the lovely red accents. I fell in love with this figure as it stands out so well next to all the others on my Youtooz shelf. I adore him even just for his colors. Plus, like Bonnie, those red eyes in the middle of those dark pits are cool as fuck. I'm so happy that giving characters shifty eyes is an ongoing trend. This looks amazing. Like, it's such a small design choice that just makes the figure so much more interesting. On the topic of his face, it's kinda hit or miss. His eyebrows look way too thick and his ears are like flat. As you can tell, I'm having a really hard time coming up with things to complain about. Look at his cute little kitty teeth. Aww. The last thing I want to discuss, yeah, this one was pretty straightforward, is the pose. So man standing, but it is really interesting to me. Maybe it's based on something specific, but why was this chosen to represent Candy's personality? Like, I'm not sure if he's ever really gotten one, but has Candy's thing ever been boastfulness? He looks like he's saying, look at me, I'm hot shit, bitches. Which doesn't really seem right to me. Like, I always pictured him as a new school rock star Chuck E. Cheese and not the 60s wisecracking one. But I guess this fits more, as he really doesn't play an instrument or... Wait. If Candy doesn't play an instrument, then What do him and Cindy do on stage? Has that ever been explained? Like, I know that Chica and Foxy don't have instruments either, and it's unclear what they actually do, but they are the star attraction of candies, burgers, and fries. What do they do? Like, what are the kids coming to see? Okay, I'll calm down. That question probably does have an answer. I just don't really feel like searching for it. Candy's Youtooz may not be over the top spectacular, but it doesn't need to be. All it needs is some amazing colors and a memorable design for me to think very highly of it. This is a no-brainer 9 out of 10 for me. It doesn't have many issues, but the main thing keeping it out of 10 is the simple fact that I don't know anything about candy. So unfortunately, I have no foot in this race. Yes, I love this Youtooz, but I don't know if it's a good or bad showcase of Five Nights at Candy's. That and its simplistic nature means that it's stuck as being almost perfect. How tragic. So, anyone want to know the answer to the age-old question, what does Art Lad think? Because I do!
I gotta be honest, I basically have no problems with the Candy's figure. I think it's so amazing. I'll start off by saying I absolutely adore the color on Candy. It's just so nice and such a soft shade. His tie, eyes, and cheeks being red makes them stand out, but not enough so that it's jarring and looks bad. It's all very cohesive and looks amazing together. Speaking of his tie, I love that it has little segments in it. Like, it's showing that they didn't just slap a regular tie on an animatronic, and I like that little detail. I also really enjoy Candy's thick eyebrows, his tilted head, his stance, his wide grin with his little fangs, and his tail. His tail! It just makes him look so happy and welcoming. And it's so fitting for an animatronic in a kid's restaurant. It also looks like his tail's in motion, and he just looks so cute and huggable. All in all, I just think this figure is amazing. And I'll be giving the Candy's figure a 10 out of 10. I just think he's perfect, and I genuinely have no complaints.
For the penultimate figure, and the character we'll be seeing most of going forward, Popgoes the Weasel, because Kane Carter loves making merch for a game that isn't even out yet. I'm kidding, of course. Kane has said before that merch production doesn't take away from Evergreen's production. And the reason Popgoes has more merch than the other series is the simple fact that Kane likes pitching merch, and the other devs don't. So while he is constantly sending out new ideas for Fanverse projects, Yomeko and Nixon are like, cool, send me my paycheck. I genuinely believe that without Kane leading the charge, the Hex and Youtooz plushies probably wouldn't exist. The box seems to be entirely themed around Popgoes Arcade, which is fitting as that's the game most people have played, because Evergreen isn't out yet. And I think it works. However, this slip cover is lame. Just 2 blank walls and a look through 2 open doors with nothing else in the way. Like, at least put an arcade machine or something. After seeing what the other 2 did, this one just feels so lazy. But it's what's on the inside that matters. No, not that inside, the box! The side shows Popgoes in front of a whack-a-mole, or whack-a-weasel, I suppose. And the quotes all seem to be meta references. The back quote reading, current objective, open this box. And with this text sitting on the Popgoes arcade machine, the reference is obvious. The side simply says pop. I personally call it soda, but you do you. And the top says Black Rabbit not included. Yeah, we'll see about that. Now, if that was all, this box would be so underwhelming to me. I mean, yeah, the arcade machine is cool, but nothing about this really screams Popgoes, you know? Like, this could be for FNaF 3, and I'd be none the wiser. But the thing that really sets this box apart is the inside. Here it shows more of the arcade, having that Whack-A-Weasel game and a token dispenser. But you can kinda see a little more of something. It looks like a frame and some wires. Oh, that's probably the 3D printer. It's kinda weird that they hid that. It's such an iconic part of this series. Too bad these inside boxes don't extend to the... Oh. Black Rabbit was included. I'm not gonna lie, this may not be the coolest box, but that is the best thing I've ever seen on one of these. Now I really want an RWQ figure. 7 out of 10. God damn it, another one? I wish the same care that went into that Easter egg was carried to the rest of the box, but ignoring Black Rabbit, this is so generic. I'll give you that 7 out of 10 props, you earned it. The first thing that stands out to me with Popgoes is how smooth he is. That may seem like a weird complaint, but if you didn't know, the Popgoes animatronics are all 3D printed, or at least the suits are. And while the Hex plushie capture this, they decided to leave it out for the Youtooz. Oh well. So let's be clear. I hate Popgoes' old design. He is naked and way too long. It is so clear he is just trying to be a rejected FNaF 1 character. Never been a fan. And while Evergreen did change his design for the better, oh, who am I kidding? He looks great. I love in the teasers when he has these blinding green eyes. It's such a powerful piece of imagery. The green accents look amazing and really tie him together, keeping him from being as boring as he used to be. The hat, ribbon, bow tie, and of course the adorable vest are all perfect. These were great additions. designs. I especially love how the vest has a buckle on the back. It's small things like that that keep these from being stale, and it makes his back a lot less flat. I love how much it's being stretched by his artificially chubby tummy. It's just adorable. But what kind of in-universe creator gives an animatronic such voluptuous childbearing hips? Oh, right. Oh, and while we're here, ew, his tail is so gross. I don't care how it looks in game, this is so yucky. It being a solid color with no texture just makes it look like a gross protruding tumor. Or, let's be real, a piece of shit coming out of his ass. Yeah, I hate this, I'm sorry. Back on the topic of green, his eyes. I love his green eyes so much. In general, you may not know this about me, but I love the color green. What? No! Silence! You're not in this episode. What? Anyway, it was so nice seeing the Youtooz eyes in my favorite color, and they fit quite well. They look incredible, and with those eye rings, please give more animatronics eye rings. They always look amazing. Funko knows what's up. Now, as much as I love the green accents, it doesn't stop me from finding his overall color scheme super boring. Hooray, another figure who is brown and tan, so original. I will say that his design is more interesting than Freddy, obviously, but I can't help but be turned off by it, especially next to Candy, or hell, the other Popgoes characters. I'm sorry, but every single one of these non-main character animatronics has an infinitely better design. I get that he's the star of the game, but I want a figure for Stone, or Sarah, or honestly, even Minoria. Please, Kane, I get that you had to make long Popgoes, but please let them get merch that aren't just pins. Like I said, I don't hate his colors, they just don't excite me. But for another detail that really helps him stand out, his pose. Kinda. Yes, man standing, but I more meant his cool guy point while he's talking into his mic. Like he's heckling some kid on their birthday. Genuinely, I love it. His slight head nod helps that even more. Now, is this something Popgoes is known for? I don't know. In fact, I don't even think I know one thing about his personality or if he even has one. I can't explain it, but the ears look strange. Like they took Freddy's and just stretched him out, but at least his teeth look great. Wow, we've had a lot of great teeth this wave. Strange. So that was pretty much the whole figure. Yeah, a pretty simple review this time around, but before I give my score, I want to follow up on something I said before that I might get some pushback on. I said that Popgoes was clearly trying to imitate a classic animatronic, but I can already hear the comments about him actually supposed to represent a toy animatronic, as that is what those printers are for, making toys. But if that was the case, why is he covered in details the classics are known for? The different colored souls, paw pads, black voids instead of ball joints. It's strange. It feels like Kane wanted to make a FNaF 1 style toy animatronic, which, I mean, I guess works. It just confuses me a little. Okay, that was very off topic. Back to the figure. Popgoes is not my favorite character in this wave. In fact, I kinda don't like his design, but I can't just ignore how well thought out this Youtooz really was. You could tell that Kane and the designers cared. Honestly, more than with Candy or Marvin. So while I can't just magically make myself a Popgoes stan, I can't put that aside and say that Popgoes Youtooz gets an 8 out of 10. I actually think he is better designed than Candy's, but I personally prefer that one. Popgoes clearly tried so hard to stand out, but because of his brown-ass color scheme, Candy's ended up beating him in that. Sorry. As you can tell, I tried my best to appreciate a figure I originally didn't care for all that much, and I believe I succeeded. But I know that's not what matters, so let's ask one more time, but what does Artlad think?
I really like a lot about the Popgoes figure. I like the detail on his vest that it's stringing against his tummy and showing that he's a bit chubby, and the added detail of the adjusting strap on the back that almost all suit vests have. A weird detail to include, but very well thought through. I like his top hat that's squished between his two huge ass round ears. It looks adorable. I like his little fangs that he has with his goofy smile. He just looks so happy. Oh my gosh, he has paw pads. They look so cute, and it's such a nice detail. It gives him a little depth, which frankly, he needs. Let's start on the things I don't adore on his figure. He looks so plain. Like, yes, he has a green vest, which is at least something to make him stand out, but he just looks so boring. Like, just flat browns and greens. It doesn't really do a lot to make me look at this figure and go, Wow. I also hate that his tail is just a gross brown blob. Like, maybe giving it a gradient or some type of texture or something, I don't know. Listen, this next point is just me being nitpicky, but I hate his pose. The guy looks like a stand-up comedian, and like he's the only one who thinks his jokes are funny. It's just dumb. It just makes him look awkward and stiff in my opinion, but besides those few minor complaints, I like him. He's a little cutie, and I'll be giving Popgoes an 8 out of 10. He's great, but just a few minor complaints.
With 3 figures down, all we have left is my personal favorite fan game series, Flumpties. Let's see if he was captured as well as the others, and maybe my bias won't get in the way this time. I lied. After One Night at Flumpties 3 released, the creator was called out for some shady behavior, and with it, his console ports and any planned merch was cancelled. I won't be going over what Jonachrome did here. If you want to look into that, you can do it on your own time. I'm not here to discuss that. I am here to talk about Youtooz. And I know what you're thinking, isn't it weird to talk about merch that doesn't even exist? We haven't even seen a picture of the prototype. Well, yeah, but I do think it's important. As to our knowledge, this is the only FNaF Youtooz and one of the very few merch items in general that was straight up cancelled. And there is enough of a trail left behind that I find it important to talk about. The only reason we know this figure exists is this leak of it listed, along with the others in the wave, in the GameStop system. That's it. Sure, it isn't the only thing proving him, but this is the main piece of evidence. Look, an official source stating that he was once real. Now we know Flumpties would have been number 12. This is because of common sense. But also, while the Fanverse Wave is in development, Chrome Gold Freddy was produced and released. And as this one took a lot less time to whip up, and the Fanverse Wave wasn't quite ready, but with it having finalized packaging, they just put it out as 13. Before 9 through 12 did, leaving us with this really distracting gap between figures. Later, when the Afton Wave released, Golden Freddy was put in his place, making it look a lot more natural and not leaving an unfillable hole in the FNaF line. But for me, this is only a reminder of what we never got to see. Like, yeah, I get why Youtooz can't release it, but please at least show us a picture of it. I'm begging you. So, what would a Flumpties Youtooz have been like? Well, if I could design it, I would give him the creepy face from the ONaF 3 trailer. And to keep him up, I would want something like the Nest from the cancelled One Week at Flumpties game. Or maybe even a few of his friends. But honestly, I'd be happy with just Blam sitting against him. But that's just some wishful thinking from me as a fan. The short answer is he probably would look pretty simple. I imagine he would be sitting up as his tiny legs definitely couldn't hold him. And I also assume he'd be waving. All things considered, we probably didn't miss out on too much. Of course, as a fan of the franchise, it's still really disappointing, but I'm glad that Youtooz took this action instead of just releasing it anyway. And that was most of the Fanverse Wave reviewed. Sorry I got a little rambly at the end there, but to me it was important to talk about the full context of this wave and not just what we can see. But holy crap, what we can see is amazing! I'm a little embarrassed that the first wave I feel completely positive about all the way through isn't even from FNaF, but I won't be salty. I'm just happy these figures turned out as amazing as they did, as it's likely we'll never see high quality figures of these characters ever again. Unless Funko wants to give them another shot, but I won't get my hopes up. I'll be giving them an easy 8 out of 10. A first for Prize Corner. Yeah, that's a little sad. This wave, while not looking all that special, is incredibly important, and has grown a lot on me over the years as I have grown similarly closer to the series these characters are from. Not cutting the joy of creation. I swear once the collection comes out, I'll play it. I promise. And I love all 3 of these figures, even if they aren't exactly groundbreaking. But in a way, them just existing is groundbreaking. I may have already asked it 3 times before, but before I close this video out, what does ArtLad think about this wave as a whole?
I like each and every one of these figures in this line. I genuinely think they're all great, and surprisingly there's no duds among them. Any changes I would make to these figures, if any, would only be slight, and some of them are just because personal preference. Overall, I would give this wave an 8 out of 10. Not perfect, but pretty dang close. Props to Youtooz and the game developers on these ones. Great job on the wave.
Thank you all for watching, and as always, the tier lists are on screen now. This video was a lot easier to make than the last few, so to me, it was a much needed break. And as these are 3 characters I obviously haven't talked about before, I'm hoping it'll feel nice and fresh for once. But with each segment almost being double length thanks to ArtLad over here, hopefully I can keep up my brand of much too long monthly FNaF reviews. Now, if you excuse me, I need to go back to being depressed about my life choices and ramble about the same 4 characters over and over and over again until I die. See you on the flip side.
I feel like that's fitting. This was the worst idea ever. It's not even gonna be funny.